Hey guys, so today I'm going to be working on this Schefflera. It's a pretty decent size plant. I got it for just, $10 at Home Depot, and I wanted to go through, cut it way back, and make it into a nice clump bonsai. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and start going into the base and cutting out any of the larger branches. I'll fine tune it once I get down a little bit further into the clump, but right now I just want to get the main mess of it away. It's kind of hard to see into the plant itself right now, so it's always a good idea to go ahead, clean up what you know you're not going to use so you can get a better look at your plant. So I jumped ahead a little bit. Now I've got half the plant defoliated, all the leaves off, any smaller branches. Now I'm just going to go ahead and work on the second half of the tree, and we'll come back when this is all pruned down. So I finally have all the leaves off of the trunks themselves. Now what I want to do is look from above and get any branches that are crossing each other. I really just want all the branches, or all the trunks rather, to be going in one direction. You can see here there's a lot of branches that are overlapping, kind of, going over one another, really obstructing the view. So with a lot of the main trunks now taken away, there's a lot better of a view through the clump itself. You don't want it to just fill in on itself. You want it to have a nice viewing area. So now I'm just going to go ahead and pop it out of the pot and start to work on the roots. As you can see, there's a lot of roots that are winding around the pot and really filling up this soil. It looks like it's just in a regular potting soil, so after I get this all cleaned up, I'll definitely be putting it into a nice bonsai soil so it can grow nice and vigorous again. So now I'm just going to come in with a small fork and start to loosen up all the roots around the base. You can see there's a lot going all around the pot, so it's going to have to take a lot of untangling, especially these bigger ones up towards the top of the pot, where it's been sitting and just wrapping around itself. If left in this pot for a very long time, it would probably end up suffocating itself and also using up all the nutrients in this soil. I did let it dry out a bit just so I could loosen the soil that much easier. So with all the soil out of the roots, I went ahead and washed it out with the hose out back. Now I can get just a better look at the roots I'm working with. As you can see, there's a lot. Most of these are really, really long. They were the ones that were wrapping around the pots, and some of them are growing straight down. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is come in and give all the roots a good haircut. I'm going to start with these roots that are growing straight down, as I know I'm not going to use any of those. I like to get rid of the ones that are on the base of the plant first, just so they're out of the way, and then I can choose the radial roots second. With a lot of those base roots removed, I just have a couple more that I want to get rid of. You can see the bottom of the plant is looking a lot flatter. This will just help it not only fit into a bonsai pot or a training bonsai pot, but it'll also promote more of that radial root positioning that we want. I'm going in with a little bit bigger pruners now, just to get nice flush cuts at the base so it can send off new feeder roots. So jumping a little bit further ahead, I've got all the base roots out. There was a lot of them. I brought them all up to one plane, basically just so they're coming out at the base of the trunks, nothing below that. I didn't want to keep anything that was unnecessary. Now I'm just gonna fan them out, get them in a good position where I can make some clean cuts. So with the roots spread out a little bit more, I'm definitely not going to need these really long roots that are going along the edge. So just to make it a little bit more manageable, I'm cutting them to the size of my Lazy Susan, and then I'm going to be able to go in further and cut them back to the size of the pot. So since this tree is actually going to be going into the pot it's sitting on right now, I went ahead and placed it up there, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the roots a little bit more to the size of that individual pot. Just going around with some nice sharp scissors or pruners to make sure there's a nice flush cut, just to promote a little bit of growth in these roots. Now I will say this was a huge root cut, this was a huge canopy cut, um, and it is, while this video was filmed around October 1st, maybe even in September, but with it being a tropical, I actually expected to do a pretty good job in bouncing back. Since this video was filmed such a long time ago, I'm even starting to see new growth already, and there will be an update just to show how fast these guys can grow and how vigorous they really can be. So now that the roots are pruned, it's time to repot. I'm starting by adding just a little bit of soil over the drainage holes. Then I'll add a little bit more just to get the height that I want for this tree. If you want to know how I make my bonsai soil, I do have a video for that. I can leave a link for that in the description below. It's basically just a perlite, a little bit of stone, and some bark or some peat moss in this individual mix. So with the soil all added, I'm going to go ahead and place my tree. I had to add this soil a little bit higher on the right side of the pot just because the way the trunks lay and the root base lays, I wanted to get it nice and flat, and it just slopes over to the left a little bit if I would have made that soil even. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut any roots that are coming out of the pot. Now it's time to finally start adding my soil around the roots. I'll go ahead and do a pretty even coat all the way around the roots, working it in with a small fork as I go. I find it's a lot easier to do a small amount of soil, then work it in, then add a little bit more, than really making a huge mound and working it in, especially when there's as many roots as there is in this tree. I also want to make sure I come in and cover up all of these roots that are on the base of the soil. In the future I will make new bari out of this, but right now, after this big cut and new transplant into a pot, especially since the plant is so young itself, I don't want to stress it out. All of those roots, if you leave them out, would probably end up just drying off anyways, so it's always a good idea when starting a bonsai to go ahead and cover those up for now and then work on them in the future. So with the soil added, I think I'm going to go ahead and add a good amount of moss to the base of this Schefflera. Not only do I like the way it looks, but it also helps hold in the moisture, especially for all those new roots. And with a tropical plant, this will help it just grow a little bit faster. So now with the moss added, I put a good amount, leaving some soil showing. I'm going to go ahead and shape the canopy a little bit more. I want it to be that nice triangle shape. I like to save this, the fine tuning, until the end, and it's in the pot and I can see kind of the size of the canopy I want. So I'm going to go ahead and start trimming back that canopy so it's the appropriate size and shape that I want. Like I said, I want a pretty uniform canopy, so here we go. So with all that excess pruned, you can see fully into the canopy. I just left the branches that are going straight up, not overlapping each other. I kind of just wanted to make sure that everything had a clear sight to the light itself and had the best chance of growing. So, until next time, happy planting!